Thank you for talking to Coast Community News again. First of all, I wanted to ask you. So I've just read the ASX report, and can you tell us a little bit what an update from you and what your plans are in terms of that new capital that you've raised?
So we're going through a process here which enables us to match capital raising with the program. We've raised the money to contribute towards approvals, drilling, purchases of equipment, and locking in a rig so that we can work with the government timetable on the NOPTA approvals and the NOPSEMA approvals. The NOPSEMA approvals are the approvals for the environmental program, and that's what we're undertaking.
So is that just an application? The application, was that already put in before, or is that just something new that you're about to put in to NOPSEMA?
No, so we had previously outlined, and I think even the community understands fairly well, there are two sets of broad approvals in this process. One is the NOPTA, which is the Offshore Petroleum Authority, the government authority, and the other one is NOPSEMA, which is the environmental approval process. And we've been waiting for the NOPTA approval for suspension, extension, and we are still currently awaiting for that. We do know from the website of the government that that decision is still sitting with the joint authority. And after we receive that, then we will proceed with the environmental approval process.
So that's been, obviously the NOPTA has been sitting there for a while, right? So you put that application in, I think, in the beginning of the year, right? Because you wanted the license was due to expire in February, is that correct?
Yes, but it is... It has occurred before with us that, in fact, the government does take a considerable time sometimes to give their approvals on these suspension and extensions, and we understand that process.
And so in terms of timeline, so do you expect, obviously, NOPTA to give you that extension? Is that your expectation? And then how long until, when I correctly read that money that you've raised is for another exploration drill? Is it going straight for exploration, or it's another test drill?
So we expect to get the approvals according to the decision-making process of the government. We just accept that fact. So we don't give a prediction, and neither do they on that process. The next well will be an exploration well for determining the type of gas and quantities in gas and the sandstone bodies, the reservoirs that are in the area. But there's a second aspect to the drilling now, and that is that we intend to evaluate the potential for storing of carbon or carbon dioxide. It's carbon capture and storage. It is the generic name for it. It's otherwise known as geosequestration.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, I've read that, and I wondered, is that somewhere else in the world already practiced, and how can I imagine how that would work? So you would transport carbon there, or how does it work?
So it's carbon dioxide. The area around Sydney, Newcastle, produces 1/3 of Australia's CO2 emissions from coal-fired power plants and other industrial uses, and of course there is other sources, motor vehicles, etc. But in fact, it's the most significant contributor to carbon dioxide, and the government, of course, has made the carbon capture and storage, or geosequestration, a major focus of its global warming commitment. In other words, its CO2 reduction ambitions. As it turns out, the offshore Sydney Basin, by independent research by government authorities, and that includes Geoscience Australia, the federal government authority, and by the CO2 CRC, which is an independent research group, have identified the offshore Sydney Basin as being a potential area for significant quantities of storage of carbon dioxide over extended period of times as a means to reduce global warming. Now, you asked me whether, in fact, it occurs elsewhere around the world, and in fact, the Norwegians have been successfully undertaking carbon capture and storage with the storage component emphasis offshore Norway, and their program is well known, and I can send you some material on that.
I've never heard it. That's why. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In addition, of course, I spoke about the CO2 CRC. There is a program which is backed by the Victorian government and other government authorities in the offshore area in Victoria, in the Otway Basin, and that's being run by the CO2 CRC. There's a further program being run offshore Western Australia as well, and that's been going for a number of years. The Norwegians, I would believe, are probably one of the most advanced in terms of the technical processes and what they're doing. And our project for a carbon capture or a carbon storage actually look to be able to, if you like, in a geographic situation, match that objective or the processes that occur in Norway.
I mean, it's interesting. I guess, as you know, the community here, there's been one of the largest petitions. There was a big bipartisan meeting, I think, a few months ago. I'm not sure if you were aware that in Canberra, and all the coastal MPs joined together besides to kind of really have their objection against of the gas exploration. Are you aware of that that community sentiment on the coastline here from Newcastle down to Manly?
Yes, we are, and in fact the petition was organised in the first instance to object against the 3D seismic campaign. And in fact, we are no longer going to proceed, or we no longer intend to proceed with the 3D seismic campaign. Mm-hmm. So in fact, if you look at it that way, the company has met community expectations in the way in which they're now just planning to proceed directly through to the drilling. And in fact, again, I don't think the community understood the immense significance of the research and the potential for carbon capture and storage, or the carbon storage, the carbon dioxide storage component in the offshore Sydney Basin. So in fact, we become, in the success case here, a significant contributor to or a positive contribution to the environment in Australia, and thereby making that same contribution on a global basis.
So what's the timeline for that? I mean, even if you get all the approvals, when you're looking at, so basically, as I understand it, if you've raised the capital that is necessary to do the exploration drilling, is that correct? And then if all approvals come in, what kind of timeline you're looking at?
So the timelines are dependent upon the government approvals and rig availability, and we're just not in a position to be able to make predictions on those components. But obviously that is...
but you do have the funding that is required? I mean, obviously once the approvals are all there, you will have enough funding to go ahead with the exploration rig?
No, we will be raising further funding. If you like, the last time that we drilled, we were able to raise, in fact, $50 million, and it is feasible that those amounts may be raised again. But we will go through a sequential, phased capital raising program to meet with the requirements of the costs of the drilling program as we meet those, and that's what we did last time around.
So does the carbon storage component of the proposal will use the same facility? So is it a complete different project?
So if you look at that, when you look at carbon capture and storage in the Norwegian instance, in fact, they use a gas well. That's the simplest concept to understand that. And in fact, what this the independent research paper, and I can send you a copy of that if you wish.
Yeah.
What that program does is the research suggests that the carbon storage component occurs in exactly the same or deeper zones within the areas where we're planning to drill. In other words, you can simultaneously do a program to investigate both gas and carbon storage in the same well. One easy way to look at it is if the gas target is at 2,000 metres and you drill to 4,000 metres, we would be drilling through multiple zones on the way from 2,000 metres to 4,000 metres that are potential carbon dioxide storage areas.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would definitely be interested to have some more information. I guess, yeah, so that's kind of the update. So what did the ASX, I mean, there was some story, so what was the news there? So basically you raised some capital, right? But that was just to get you to the next stage, I guess, right? Like the announcement from yesterday. What did that?
Yes, the announcement was all about the capital raising and the degree of support and the way in which we're able to so readily raise the capital shows that there is significant widespread community investment support for the company.
So I guess a lot of people, I guess, holding their breath, they were hoping that the license would be cancelled or not renewed, I guess. And obviously you're very much committed, right, to continue the project of PEP 11.
We're certainly committed to continue with the project. We think that, in fact, when you look at the federal government objectives, they see gas as a critical component of the economic recovery plans. The New South Wales government has released a plan for the next phase of energy, and they actually see several key components in that. So certainly wind and solar are a key component of the expansion of energy contribution, but in fact that's to be backed up even with the New South Wales government by three different sources. One is hydro or stored hydro. The second is battery storage, and the third is gas-fired baseload power stations. And the federal government has the same objectives, and so, but more importantly than that, there is the capacity for gas to significantly lower, or for gas-fired power generation to significantly lower CO2 emissions or carbon dioxide emissions, but also there are 50,000 jobs at least in the area of industrial usage which require gas as a contribution or a significant contribution to those jobs. So in fact, another source of gas into the New South Wales market where there is a projected shortfall would become very important.
Okay. Are you planning to open an office somewhere close here on the East Coast? I mean, I know you have a registered office, I think, in Sydney, but are you planning on having an office up in this way?
We don't have an immediate objective of that, but that is certainly in contemplation.
Mm-hmm.